Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The bar is open, so please help yourself to any refreshment. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Melanie Acer, and I will be your MC tonight. We will be doing the presentation in English. If there's anyone who cannot follow along, please come see me or anyone else of the presenters, and we would be happy to translate what was presented to you in Dutch. Welcome His Excellency Ambassador Han Chin. Welcome Minister Chen Xu. For overseas Chinese who flew all the way from the People's Republic of China, thank you for being here in our midst. We are very fortunate to have her here tonight to celebrate this special event with us. Friends, distinguished guests, media, and those watching in the live stream, welcome for being here. For those of you who cannot be here, we hope that you will be joining us in the live stream. The live stream is on YouTube at the launch of Paul Woei's book on Chinese indentured laborers, 1853, in the colony Suriname. Ambassador Han Chin, thank you for your generosity and accommodation for the use of your auditorium for the book launch of Mr. Paul Woei, his book, 𝐶𝐵𝐺, titled 𝐶𝐵𝐺 in the colony, sorry, I'm translating it already. 𝐶𝐵𝐺 in the kolonie Suriname begon met 1 cent birambi op azijn. Translated, independence in the colony Suriname began with 1 cent birambi on vinegar. We also want to thank colleagues of the political section of the embassy for their patience and their assistance in arranging all accommodations together with Mrs. Jeanette Woei. We also thank all other staff members of the embassy for making this event tonight possible. I would like to invite Ambassador Han Chin for his speech. You may please take the floor. Thank you.
Hello.
尊敬的陈旭主任，尊敬的魏南光先生，尊敬的各位来宾、各位朋友，大家晚上好。
Respected Minister Chen Xu, Mr. Paul Woei, and esteemed guest, good evening.
欢迎大家来到中国使馆，参加魏南光先生的新书发布会。
Welcome everyone to the Chinese Embassy for Mr. Paul Woei's new book launch event.
对这场活动，我们期盼已久，做了精心的策划和充分的准备。中国国务院侨务办公室主任陈旭女士的到来，更使我们感到喜出望外。陈主任今天下午刚刚抵达，带来了祖国对于旅苏侨胞的重视、关心和慰问。在此，我代表使馆对陈主任一行表示热烈欢迎和衷心感谢。
We have been eagerly anticipating this event, and it has been carefully planned and well prepared for. The arrival of Minister Chen Xu of the State Council Overseas Chinese Affairs Office of China has filled us with great joy. Minister Chen just arrived this afternoon and brought with her the attention, care, and well wishes of our motherland towards the overseas Chinese in Suriname. On behalf of the embassy, I extend a warm welcome and heartfelt gratitude to Minister Chen.
魏南光先生是苏里南侨界德高望重的前辈，不仅在艺术领域取得了卓越的成就，而且在学术研究领域也造诣颇深。
Mr. Woei is not only an outstanding representative of the Chinese community in Suriname arts sector, but also dedicated himself to defending the rights of his fellow Chinese compatriots and contributing to the local community.
他的新作有一个非常有趣的名字，用中文来解释就是从1分钱泡菜开始的独立自强。那么这本书呢，用插图和文字讲解的形式，记录了中国契约劳工远渡重洋来到苏里南定居，积极融入当地社会，繁衍生息，成为苏里南6大族群之一的历史进程。在我们隆重纪念华人定居苏里南170周年之际，具有特别重要的价值和意义。
Mr. Woei is highly respected in the Surinamese Chinese community. Today, he appears before us in a new role as the author of the new book, Independency Started with 1 Cent Birambi on Vinegar. This book, with its illustrations and texts, chronicles the historical journey of the Chinese contract laborers who crossed the ocean to settle in Suriname, actively integrating into the local society and eventually became one of the 6 major ethnic groups in Suriname. This year is 170 years Chinese immigration, and the launching of this book has a special meaning in it.
华人来到苏里南，白手起家，筚路蓝缕，艰苦创业，落地生根，经过了汗水与泪水交织、勇气和力量铸就的170年。
Chinese have thrived in Suriname since 1853. This history spans over 170 years, marked with a mix of sweat and tears, courage and strength, as well as a determination to overcome challenges.
魏先生系统地记录了这史诗般的征程，让社会各界了解华侨华人为苏里南经济社会发展做出的巨大贡献。
I am delighted and grateful that Mr. Woei has systematically documented this epic journey, allowing various sectors of society to understand the significant contributions of the Chinese community to the economic and social development of Suriname.
如今，华侨华人在贸易、餐饮、矿业、林业等领域取得骄人成就，当地华人积极参政议政，华侨社团带领侨胞们同苏里南社会深度融合，使中华文化在一代代旅苏侨胞中薪火相传。广大在苏华侨华人与祖国同呼吸共命运，不仅积极牵线搭桥，助力家乡经济发展，更在涉及国家主权和领土完整的重大问题上，坚定支持中国政府，维护民族大义。这些都为中苏关系发展打下了坚实基础。
Today, our compatriots have achieved remarkable success in the fields as trade, catering, mining, and forestry. The local Chinese actively participate in politics, playing an increasing role in the government and parliament. The Chinese community organizations lead our compatriots in deep integration into Surinamese society, passing down Chinese culture through generations. They also have a great tie with China, forming a bridge between the relations of our 2 countries.
随着中苏战略合作伙伴关系蓬勃发展，两国合作大门会越开越大，侨胞干事创业的舞台也会越来越大。华侨华人在海外的发展得到了中国国侨办等政府部门的大力支持，希望广大在苏侨胞更进一步开创更辉煌的事业，为加强中苏各领域务实合作，推动双边关系发展贡献更大力量。
The Surinamese Chinese community actively bridge connections, support hometown economic development, and steadfastly support the Chinese government in matters of national sovereignty and territorial integrity. Looking to the future, we hope that our compatriots in Suriname, while reaching new heights in their endeavor, will contribute even more to strengthening practical cooperations in various fields between China and Suriname, promoting the development of bilateral relations. The embassy will continue to fully support and cooperate with Director Shen, Minister Shen of the Overseas Chinese Affairs.
最后，我代表中国驻苏里南使馆再次对魏先生的新书发布表示热烈的祝贺。相信这本书会受到各界朋友的广泛欢迎。我和大家一样，期待着尽早的来阅读这本书。谢谢大家。
Finally, on behalf of the Embassy, I congratulate Mr. Woei on the release of his new book. We look forward to hearing Mr. Woei and the various scholars' explanations and introductions. We believe this book will receive a warm welcome from friends in all walks of life. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite Minister 𝐤𝐚𝐠𝐥𝐞 to the floor for your speech. Thank you.
尊敬的韩静大使，尊敬的魏南光先生、女士们、先生们，大家晚上好！非常高兴。哦 ，sorry。
Respected Ambassador, Mr. Paul Woei, ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
非常高兴，我们代表团一行访问苏里南。今天呢，在中国驻苏里南大使馆参加魏南光先生的新书发布仪式。我仅代表中国国务院侨务办公室向新书的发表表示热烈的祝贺。
I am delighted to be at the book launch event for the independency started with 1 cent birambi on vinegar at the Chinese Embassy in Suriname this evening. On behalf of the Chinese State Council Overseas Chinese Affairs Office, I extend my warm congratulations on the release of this new book.
文以载道，歌以咏志。长期以来，一代又一代的海外侨胞秉承中华民族优秀传统，心怀桑梓，不忘故土，用语言、文字和实际行动，在海外讲述华人先辈的移民历史，传承弘扬中华文化，积极推动中外文明的交流互鉴。
As the saying goes, words convey thoughts, and songs express aspirations. Over the years, generation after generation of overseas Chinese have upheld the fine traditions of the Chinese nation. They have cherished their roots, never forgotten their homeland, and through language, writing, and practical actions, they have narrated the immigration history of their Chinese ancestors overseas. They have inherited and promoted Chinese culture and actively facilitated cultural exchange between China and other civilizations.
就像韩静大使刚才介绍的，中国人到苏里南始于1853年，今年呢是华人定居苏里南170周年。魏先生新书在此时发布，我觉得具有特殊的意义。
As the ambassador just said, the Chinese in Suriname dates back to 1853, and this year marks the 170th anniversary of the Chinese settling in Suriname. Mr. Woei's new book is released at this special time.
多年来，苏里南政府大力支持多元文化建设，促进在苏各族裔的和睦相处。鼓励在苏的华人华侨传承弘扬民族文化。
Over the years, the Surinamese government has strongly supported multicultural development, promoted peaceful coexistence among various ethnic groups in Suriname, and encouraged the overseas Chinese community to inherit and promote their culture.
中国驻苏里南大使馆自建立以来，始终贯彻为侨服务的宗旨，不遗余力支持在苏侨胞传承弘扬中华文化。以魏南光先生为代表的在苏华侨华人，为促进中苏两国之间的友好交流做出了突出的贡献。
Since the establishment of the Chinese embassy in Suriname, we have consistently followed the principle of serving the overseas Chinese community and provided unwavering support for the inheritance and promotion of Chinese culture among the overseas Chinese community in Suriname. Mr. Paul Woei and other Surinamese Chinese have made significant contributions to fostering friendly exchange between China and Suriname.
此次描述在苏华裔移民史新书的出版，相信对于在海内外进一步介绍华人移民苏里南的历史，传播中华优秀文化，促进中苏友好，发挥更加积极的推动作用。
The publication of this new book on the history of Chinese immigrants in Suriname will certainly play a more proactive role in further introducing the history of Chinese immigration in Suriname, both domestically and internationally, and in the promoting of Chinese culture.
衷心的祝愿发布会圆满成功，祝各位来宾和朋友们身体健康，阖家幸福，万事如意。
I wish this book launch event great success. I wish all the guests good health, happiness in your family, and success in all your endeavors.
谢谢。
Minister, I would like to invite you back to the stage, please. We are so very honored that you are visiting this event with us tonight, and therefore we would like to show you some of our hospitality. I would like to invite Mr. Paul Woei and Mr. Jeanette Woei. Please come. Especially for this occasion, we would like to present you to be the first to receive one of the newly published books. Please have a step. Okay. If you can turn, can you turn? Yeah. Meneer Woei.
The very and the colony was actually a prison for all people, and for the black people from Africa, and the next person were the Chinese. And to get their independence, they started with a small entrepreneur as a symbol, and I started with a short history of China and how China, the culture of China, those are the contributors. And then we have the author, but mostly it's about this family. And many descendants, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th generation are sitting here. Okay. They interview me, and they are playing, and the culture of China, the education, and but also China honor the science of the world, not only Chinese, but the whole world. And that's how it was in China. And this is the area where all the Chinese from the whole Jamaica, Trinidad, Suriname, and Hawaii, they all came from this area, and those are Hakka people. And there's a reason why they emigrate.
Went abroad.
And this is the village. This is my family book. My family book goes to 200 before Christ. So it's it's more than 20 million people. I'm one of the descendants, and the history, how they came down from here to Suriname. And this is these are the interviews and the place where they settle and what they have to do. I will explain it. And from the sugar, because they have to find a way to survive. It's all about surviving in the colony. And the book is all about it. And we introduce the rice in Suriname and what they had to do to make some money. And we are the 4th, 5th generation. And many of the descendants doesn't even know the history anymore. They think it's automatically the Chinese start with the job. But it was not that. They was just to survive. And those are the people. It's a small, and this guy is started very small with a small shop, and this history and how it grew in the city and became a small city. And those are the families. And this is a very important family for the Surinamese. And those that education, you see all the kind of mixture. And those are the family. They're sitting around here now. And those are the scientists. We have 2 nuclear scientists from Suriname, one in Canada and one in Holland. They have contributed a lot to the world from Suriname. The small girl is sitting here somewhere. And those are the dragons. During the war, Suriname have contributed a lot to the many Chinese during the war contributed a small amount, and that went to China to help the Allied force to get the Japanese out. And this is one of them. It's a very important document. And this is a contribution of a Chinese descendant. You know, this is the first consul I was talking about who visited Suriname in 1944. That's all about it. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
Can you take a moment to take a picture, please? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the book launch of Schriftvidentie in de kolonie Suriname begon met 1 cent Birambi op azijn. Translated, independence in the colony Suriname began with 1 cent Birambi on vinegar. Birambi is a small, very sour fruit, otherwise known as bilimbi or tree cucumber. And as you see, those are pickled in the jar. Sorry. Again, I would like to introduce Paul Woei and Judith Lohr, who is one of the editors, to come on the podium, and they will enlighten you with a few samples of the content of the book. Please welcome Paul Woei and Judith Lohr. Judith, Tika. Janet moet er ook bij? Oké. Mrs. Janet Woei. U mag zitten, meneer Woei.
Sorry.
Mrs. Janet Woei, I have to invite you as well. Yes.
The text.
All right.
And the book for the ambassador. And the book for the ambassador.
Thank you, Brother. It's okay.
I have it here for you. You know, keep it here. Pero you know, keep it on ambassador.
Well, funny.
To the ambassador. Thank you, my dear. Thank you. And have a pleasant evening. 谢谢你. We talk about. Thank you for coming. De minister moet weg, want ze heeft meer dan 33 uur gevlogen uit China. Ze is doodop. Dus ze gaat even rusten nu. Mag haar.
The ambassador has other commitments to attend to and must say her goodbyes. Thank you for being here, even if it was a brief moment. Thank you.
Melanie, nu de ambassadeurs kunnen gewoon Nederlands praten, toch? In plaats van het Engels. Do we have other English speakers?
We have English speakers, we have visitors. English, please. Is that okay?
Then we'll do it in Dutch. In English?
Yeah?
Yeah. In English?
Yes, in English, please. English. Thank you.
Good evening, distinguished guests. Okay, again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Nee? Is it no good? Okay. Paul, at last, your dreams have become reality. Now we have the opportunity to witness your dream. Closer, okay? For your book, 𝐒𝐚𝐿 𝐴𝐻𝐶 But before asking my questions, in short, we had a great time with the editing of this book. We have a lot of fun and we learn a lot of things.
A lot of yelling.
Jeanette, will you please add some more?
Jeanette, please, okay? Well, it wasn't only fun, it was an adventure with a lot of experience, and every day we had something new. Laughters and But anyhow, the book is now finally realized, and I'm so happy and proud that this book will be launched in a few minutes, and that you will have a better knowledge and insight of the contribution of our Chinese ancestor. We are very proud to have Chinese blood in us, and we can say that we are a very successful generation. Anyhow, Paul and Judith will tell you a little bit more about how it all came to be with our Chinese generation, many of you are sitting here in the auditorium. So thank you, and also thank you for being here to celebrate this special moment with us. Thank you.
Paul, will you be so kind to share some thoughts with us regarding this book? First of all, tell us when and where you got all the information for this precious and historical book, beginning with your youth in your father's shop at the Waterkant.
Well, that book was a heavy weight. I'm so glad I finished it, because this book started when I was 9 years old. I went with my parents to Hong Kong to study, and then we stayed in China and Hong Kong for 4 years. I have to say 1948 was a difficult world for the China, because they are changing from naturalist to communist China, and I was right in the middle. So, but in Hong Kong itself is Cantonese. They speak Cantonese. Cantonese in local language means Punti, local people. And I call myself a Hakka. I thought Hakka was normal, but it was not normal, because the student at school, they said, you are Hakka, you are a farmer, you're nothing, you're not civilized. So you know only how to grow rice and vegetable. And I got very upset. That was the very start for me to start looking what is a Hakka. And from then on, the next question, then I got the next question, and it went on. And when I came back to Suriname, I got involved with a lot of descendants who talked to me about their family history, and they showed me the document like Mrs. Shakshi. She said, Agnes, thank you so much. She started with documenting the family history when she was 10 years old. Everything document she kept, and she still have it. She's about my age, or maybe younger. I'm sorry. That's but anyhow, I got to see it, so I wrote down all the storytelling, and I must say there are many more of the story. I have about 400 pages of writing about these people, and I took off 550 pages because they are more or less the same story. And then I have the editor, Janet and Lord. They said, you have to put out more. So it became from 350 to 300. That was the final. But the story is about surviving in the colony where the blacks for 300 years were enslaved. And when the Chinese came here in 1853, Suriname colony was still a slave colony. Many things what apply to the black slave, they are also applied to the Chinese indentured labor.
Yes. And the second question, the information you have in the book, how did you get it? Not from oral stories, but also from?
Well, my father was involved in 𝐒𝐚𝐠𝐥𝐞 as chairman and as a member of the 𝐒𝐚𝐠𝐥𝐞 for 30 years. So my father, since I was small, very young, I went with my father to the shop, to the district, to Meersorg, everywhere. Whenever this Chinese has a problem, the shopkeeper, my father was involved, and he helped a lot. And I was a small boy sitting there listening, and I was very bored. But I remember all those stories, and I used it for my book, and I asked questions to the descendant, how was it with your grandparents, how was it that? And I got an answer. That's how the book was compiled.
Okay, but you also used other books, not oral information, but you read some books.
One thing I never do is searching the Dutch archive, because that story are all lies. They never tell their story is from their point of view. But I knew the story since I was a child. From the Suriname side, there's a total different way of seeing things.
Can you give a sample?
Well, the Chinese are heathen. They're not Christian, and we have to baptize them all. That is one of them. You don't speak Dutch. You speak only Chinese and Taki-Taki. So you're not civilized. That is the second. Mm-hmm. And you talk to everybody, you laugh to everybody. You need to do that in the shop. You have all kind of people coming into the shop. I was also involved in the shop as a boy. Later, I have to sell also behind the counter. So I know the other side.
From the people. Mm. From the people. Okay. And the book you wrote, what can you give to the Suriname people? For instance, the youth. What kind of advice do you give them?
Know your family history. Know the story of your country, and you will be strengthened. I have written in the book, the very first page, I said, if you want to know who you are, know your history. If you know the history of past, you will understand today. And when you understand today, you will conquer the future.
Okay. Thank you very much, Paul, for this information.
Let's start with the book.
Okay.
There is something written here, and everybody was asking, what is that for? There are three things. The first, I will talk about from 1840 to 1870. That's the book also. But the 1840 to 1870, the world history changed totally. There was something happening in San Francisco. There was something happening in Canton and 𝐒𝐚𝐠 with the Taiping War. There is something with the colony in South America, the Caribbean. They're all connected. And the one thing, this, for instance, had consequence for Suriname. Not many people realize that. I will explain it later.
Okay.
This is a pamphlet, a recruiting pamphlet.
Yeah.
That's a cute thing. Yes.
Chinese to North America. The text that is on the screen, it's from a pamphlet when they lured the Chinese people in around 1853 to come to North and South America. They were lured on a false pretension that they will be very rich, they can earn a pot of gold, and you just name it. So when they came to the green hell, as Paul was saying, they saw that it was so different. It's not going to a country where you will just earn and be rich. It was hard labor.
I will explain
You had
it
no
more.
saying.
I will explain
But
it
Paul
more.
Woei will explain a little bit more.
In 1848, there were many Chinese, Japanese, and Filipino fishers on the west coast of America, California, San Francisco especially, and that area was a Spanish colony. And from there on to the Nevada area, there were only Amerindians. So half of America was still with Amerindians, and the East Coast only had people from Europe. They lived there, and they couldn't get to San Francisco. To travel to San Francisco, they have to travel 11 months through South America and to the other side of America to California. Panama and all the places didn't exist. That is one of the story. And the second thing is in 1948, gold was discovered. And the Chinese knew how to explore gold because they don't use the pen. They use we call it a box. And that is more efficient. But I'll talk to that later, or you can read it in the book. But then suddenly, 2 years after that, America killed all the Amerindians, and they had to make a connection with the East Coast. Is too loud? And the connection, they needed a train. And Crocker started with this pamphlet to ask Chinese to come to California, so with this they can earn a lot of money. And why should China emigrate to California? Not because California was better, but China was in problem. And I have to go back to the history. China had a problem with the opium import from the British and from the Dutch masters. And half Chinese was enslaved in opium. And why do they do that? Because China was trading with the West. And how come I have to go back to the history? Formerly, the only place that trade with China is from Constantinople, from the Middle East, from where we have Iraq now. And the sailboat of can we go to that? To that? May manabanina? May nabanina? May nabanina? May yakatang karsin? No. Yeah. Mir. There, yeah. And so many Chinese went on board to go to California, because China was in the middle of the Taiping War. What happened is that a young guy, Hakka guy, not far from our hometown in China, he said, I have to chase this emperor away because we are in opium problem and they are crooked and they are corrupt. So he started a war with the Qing dynasty, and he conquered half of China up to Nanjing. And then he told his soldiers, we go to have holiday for 2 months. And the emperor used that holiday to gather all the soldiers from China, and they surrounded Nanjing and killed all the Hakka. And the emperor was very angry. He said, kill all the Hakkas. 20 million Hakka people were killed because of that, the Taiping. And anybody, your ancestor, who fled, was lucky to fled to the new colony Macau and Hong Kong, came to stay there because it's a colony and the emperor couldn't. And the pamphlet to lure people to work in California, other countries use it, like the Panamese, the Spanish people. They had a colony, Cuba. And we all know from the history, from 1807, there were no slaves anymore exported from Africa to the Caribbean areas. So of the 700 plantations, for instance, in Suriname, there were only 200 plantations left, and they didn't have much. The competition was heavy. You have coffee, cocoa, and nothing else. No sugar, mind you. But to save Cuba, the Spanish boat in Hong Kong used the same pamphlet, but promised those people we're going to San Francisco, but they didn't go to San Francisco. They make a turn to Panama, and they have walked through the Panama jungle to the other side with a Spanish boat, take them to Cuba. And they tried with sugar, because sugar was very expensive. In Europe, where they imported sugar from China, they have to lock it in a safe box, locked, because people steal sugar. It was a luxe thing only the very super rich can afford. There was no sugar in Europe. And because of the sugar in Cuba, and the Chinese know how, because they know how to refine the sugar cane, they put the Chinese in Cuba, and Cuba become very rich because of the sugar. But not only sugar, but I talk to that later, but Trinidad, Jamaica, and Guyana, the English, they saw this Chinese working for the sugar plantations that we need. So in Hong Kong and in Macau, they used that pamphlet, we're going to San Francisco, but they never did. They make another turn, you can see it there, and they went to Cuba. And later on, I'm talking about 53, 344, they came, the Dutch started with Suriname to save the plantation. But I will not talk. If you want to know more, you have to read the book. But
Thank you very much, Paul. They have to read the book. You don't have to tell anything. Okay.
The book is full of interesting, very impressed story. So if you want to know more about how the Chinese survived, you should get that book. I can warmly suggest that you get one of that copy.
from 1850, 50, 60 on, when the steamboat was created, because before that you had only sailboats. The Chinese went, oh, this is one of the Chinese. You can see they were eating, and they were looking outside to the promised land that never was a promised land. This is very rare photos. It took a long while before I found this photo. And what do they have on board? I have many stories. As a child, my father used to go to the contract labor. They were still alive, and they were talking about the trip from China to Suriname. And it takes about 3 months. And before that, it was only a sailboat, and later on the steamship. What did they have on board? They get soda biscuit. That is very hard biscuit. You dump it in water. That's all the food they got on board for the ship. But luckily, when China traveled, they always have food in them. In a pocket or whatever, they have some snacks. And they travel with rice and also the fish. That is this one. This one. When you cook fish and you bake it and you steam it and then you put it in a high pressure cooker, they have a pressure cooker. Everything there become brittle and they put black bean sauce in it. And with that, they could survive the trip to the Caribbean area. And now the descendant learn how to eat that from their grandparents, and now it's a luxury food. If you want to buy it, you can make it yourself, but this costs you about $3. Not many people can afford that for a tin can of fish. But this is one of the main food on board of the ship. And the other one, yeah. This is this one. Every day when we as children didn't eat, my father started with the same story. Do you know how they traveled to Suriname? One father and a son, they ran out of food. They only have one salted egg over. So when every day they eat rice, they dip the stick in the egg, and they only smell it, and for the rest they eat rice. That's how they survive. Those eat everything. So I remember the story very well. And now this is also is a very cheapest food in China, but in Suriname and overseas is a very expensive thing.
If you tell everything, they don't want to buy the book, Paul.
I'm going to tell you only 15%.
Okay. What do they learn, the young people, from this, what you just tell us?
I hope people, because we are becoming very lax in our life, everything is normal, everything I have the right to have, but your grandparents had to fight for it. And for instance, when they came, I'll give, can I show you the plantation? A plantation? No, here. When they went to the plantation, behind they have to find out. There's no information in Suriname about the salary, but people were talk to me, old people, about how much they earned. They were cheated. They got 3 bigisensi a day. 1 bigisensi is 2.5 cents. And the salary every day was 7.5 cents. And this story was told me once or twice. But the Chinese were here for about 12.5 cents a day. That one information is from Trinidad and Guyana, not from Suriname. So I think it's about 10 cents, 12.5 cents. So they were cheated. And when they go and take some fish or a new clothes, or new shoes, or whatever, the colonizer, they said, I have to subtract. So actually, you owe me money. I'm not going to pay you. You have to sign up again 5 years. So what did the Chinese do? The small amount what they have, they came together, 50 friends. They started with the bank system. We call it the poor man's banking. And Suriname, well known as 𝐒𝐚𝐠𝐥𝐿. We call it 𝐒𝐿. That means 50 friends come together, put the money together, and buy out the first friend, and the next one, the second friend. And pretty soon, the plantation was depleted of our Chinese labor because they were out. They paid the fee, and but they couldn't go back to China. Outside, they had the river. There were no roads on the plantation connected to each other. Roads in Suriname started around 1920. Don't forget that when you're a plantation, you are totally isolated. You can't go. You can walk maybe to your neighbor, but you can't travel. The only way of travel is by boat. And getting out of the plantation was a big thing. But where do I go? Paramaribo by boat takes hours. And when you're in Paramaribo, you are not allowed to stay in Paramaribo. Paramaribo was a small place, Gravenstraat, Waterkant, Steenbakkerijstraat, Wanikastraat. That's Paramaribo. The rest was jungle. Don't forget that. Paramaribo, what we know now, is not Paramaribo in 1850. Was so totally different. And there were no shops, only houses. And how do the people live? The white people who live there live only for 5 years and not more. Why they don't have children? Why do they not stay only for 5 years and sell the plantation and go back? Because they don't bath and they stink and they wear woolen clothes, so they get sick. The body get what is sorrow? Sores, all kind of sores. So they sell the plantation for the next guy. That was Paramaribo. And all food they got in boxes from Holland. Biscuit, bread. Stedman, a well-known soldier in Suriname, he wrote a diary about his life. He went to the governor for dinner, and he got bread. And when he cut the bread, it was green. So you just shovel the green stuff around. You have a worm, you just pick it out, and you put your herring or your cheese and your butter. That was the food stuff. Because the Dutch people, the white people, don't touch bakove, banana, or cassava. That is not food for the slave and later for the Chinese. We have to remember that life as you know that, we know it now, is a contribution of the contract laborers, the Chinese, the Hindustani, and the Japanese. Those are the people who enriched the food culture of Suriname. Before that, and then. So the Chinese were stuck on the plantation. And what to do? Kan ik naar die volgende? Die sluis. Wat is die sluis? Ja. Nee. Wacht even. Naar beneden? Nee. Hier. Oh, nee. Hier naar boven. Wacht even. Hier, deze. This is a very rare photo. I found it. I was so happy when I found this photo. This photo is around 1880, 1870, 1890, that area. Before the sluice, there was nobody's land. The plantation doesn't own that piece of land. Is it on stick? No. This was just mud. And there were no roads. This is the waterway, and this is the sluice. And the Chinese couldn't go they will not survive in the jungle. They can't go overseas. They couldn't go to Paramaribo. And on this area, outside of mud, they built a house. A small house, and this is later a wooden house, but it was a hut. And from here, they tried to survive. The life was very hard for them. If you heard the story, you cry. And they have the vinegar, the birambi from the plantation. They put rice water, rice water. The very first water, if you change it, it becomes vinegar. And I must tell you, the vinegar, where any culture who has vinegar has culture. That's only Persia, and Middellandse Sea, that area. A culture that had no vinegar cannot preserve food. And if you have no preservative, there's no tomorrow. So you cannot have any culture evolve from that country, of that culture. And when they have all those things, before the sluice, they have a table. And here they set the coconut and sugar. They sell the vinegar, how do you call that? The pickled food and other. One thing, sugar was for thousands of years in China. What did they do with sugar? Put some water in it, boil it, do a certain substance, turn the light off. You have a kind of pasta. You put some aromatic flavor in it. You squeeze it, you roll it, then you have candy. Candy is from Suriname. It's not from Holland. Holland took it over. And America came here from 1870 to 90. They copy it. And now we don't, the Chinese who started that cannot survive, but because the candy from Holland is better. It is wrapped in paper nicely, but has not the taste of what Suriname. There are many more foodstuff what the Chinese did, and this is lost all. There's only a memory, and not many people knows about that. Go ahead.
Okay. Paul, your title of your book, One Cent Birabi on Vinegar. Can you explain why you choose for this title?
This is a symbol of surviving and the plantation. It's a symbol. It's very important. With this, it was possible to survive one day.
So we have to learn more of these days.
And from that area, they planted rice. They planted. Whenever my family traveled to Hong Kong, China, and we traveled back, you know what my mother did? In the yard, she had a bag, a paper bag, and put some sand in it. And she'd take a tap water, put it in a bottle, and we bring it to China, to the ancestor village, and she sprinkled it. This is Suriname. And when we came back to Suriname from China, she took some soil and water and bring it. This is China. It's a kind of climatiseren. I don't know how to define that.
Tradition.
Yeah.
It's more a tradition.
And they also have seed. Anywhere they go, they plant seed. According to the history, Venezia, north of Venezia, there's a river, the Po River, and the only place where they had rice in whole Europe. And nobody knows how rice came there. Well, the Chinese came to Venezia in the 14th, 13th century, and they brought the rice seed, and they planted. They lived there, and they had the seed. But Chinese are gone, but the rice are still going. In America, San Francisco, California, where all the China, that's the place where the best rice culture, and they export it to everywhere. Where Chinese says you have vegetable and rice.
Okay, that's a nice story, Paul.
It's not a nice, it's surviving. It's not nice.
It's nice and surviving, of course, as we can learn a lot of your book. And the best way to know it is to buy it.
It's not my story. It's the story of your ancestor who told me.
Yeah.
I wrote it and I published it, but it's not my story. It's the story of your grandfather.
So we have to learn very much of
You
all
have
the
to learn
story,
from your
yes.
grandparents,
Yes.
not from me.
But you wrote it down.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Paul, for this explanation.
Any question I would like to answer? A few questions? Yes, Maria. Doctor.
Tell us a little bit about Koroni.
I don't have it. I have it in my book. I have it not in my. You have to buy the book. Buy two, so I can survive. The very first contract labor was in the Saramacca Fair. Wat is de naam weer? De eerste plaats. Nee, ik moet het even uitleggen. Nou, wat is de naam van de eerste plantage weer? Katarina Sofia. That's the first plantation with the Chinese, the very first 18. And after the 5-10 years, they have the problem. So they went to 𝐿𝐼𝐴 to fish to survive, because they couldn't go to the city, they could go at sea with a Corial, they passed away, and they could live in the jungle. So at the 𝐿𝐼𝐴, they started with shrimps, dried fish, and all those things, and they tried to plant, they want rice, but it was not possible. 𝐿𝐼𝐴 was salted water, and rice cannot grow salted. If you look at the satellite photos, and I found it because I know the story, but I couldn't find the place. I went to 1948, I was 9 years, I went with my mother and a whole group of children in a big bus to find the place in the Boskamp. We couldn't find it. There was only one Chinese shop. And we asked, where are all the Chinese? They're gone. Where gone? Nobody could tell us. And 53, I went back for a holiday. I stayed 2 weeks in 𝐿𝐼𝐴 with a friend. I was looking for the area. I couldn't find it. But now, a few years later, I became smart after all these mistakes. I look up at the satellite photos. And 100 meters in the jungle, I found a canal. And I saw, if you see paddy fields. And Chinese were living there, and they planted rice, about 20 or 30 families. But nobody is there, so you cannot survive. I think 15 years, 20 years after that, they went fishing, looking for fish at the boat. And the boat was going to the west part, and they saw a creek, and they went to that creek. And there was Koroni. And the Koroni was deserted, because Koroni was a cotton plantation, and because of the salted water, all the cotton fields were gone. So the Scottish people who were there, the McDonalds and all those people, you can see it on the name, Totnes and everything, they left, and they let the slaves and the slave couldn't make a living anymore. But the Chinese came in, and they asked the slave, they dig a canal, and they planted rice. When you have paddy, you have the rice, but you have the other paddy? No,
The husk.
the hulk of the rice. And you use it with the coconut, because they have planted also coconut for the coconut oil, and you sit with the coconut, and you combine that paddy, the hulk, and the coconut. You can start with the farming. That is good food for the pig. So they started with the pig, and from the one to the other, everybody, all the slaves planted coconut, because the Chinese buy the coconut, and you can make a living. But the Chinese use the rice and the coconut to start farming. And luckily, because in 1940, when we were in World War, none of us in Suriname had any famine, hungry, because we have a lot of rice from Koroni, we have a lot of meat. And there's another family in the 𝐿𝐼𝐴 River, those were the Vietnamese. The third generation learned how to build a boat, 2 big boats and a few small boats. Those 2 brothers were very smart, and just when the war started, they were fishing at sea, and the small boat were bringing it ashore, and they barbacoa it, whatever they do, and they bring it to us. That's why we had a lot of fish from those Vietnamese, and we have rice and oil from Koroni. We survived the Second War without knowing why. We thought it's normal, but it was not normal. We were very lucky to have those people. Any more questions?
Thank you, Paul, Jeanette, and Judith for enlightening us. Oh, I think we have one more question. Where's this picture, Paul Boy?
I just said the book, you have to buy the book. I have a few, but not. I don't have Corona. Look what they did to this. Not only candy, but the sugar mixed with the burned corn. Asogri, that is child food. Everybody 70 years above as a child bought this. 2 cents. And many of the old generation, not the young generation, because this is gone. And no. Yeah. Yeah. I have to talk about the intermarriage. When the contract labor at the plantation had sex with a black slave, a girl. Of course, 9 months after you have a baby. And according to the colonizer, the guy, that child is a slave because the Dutch people, the white people who had sex with the slave, whenever a child was born, a mulat, we call them mulat, or bon couleur in Suriname, we call it bon couleur. Those people were also slaves. So, and the Chinese guy didn't want his child to be a slave. So he had to buy the slave, the girl, from the guy, and the child was free. That black girl and her child was the first free people on the plantation. That's why many black slave girls want to marry this Chinese guy, because you will be free. That's how it all involved. Many more?
Any more questions?
Any more questions?
All right.
Next time if you ask, you have to pay. Today is free.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul, Judith, and Jeanette. Okay, one more.
Yeah, just this, sir. This guy, he had here, that means this photo. This photo was made before 1911. That's one indication. This is his wife, the children. To make this photo, it costs a lot of money. You have to dress up the children. They have to be clean, and you go to the photo shop, and you make the photo, and you order 12 or 14, depending how many friends you have. And this photo is an introduction of him to his family in China and friends in Suriname. This is my family. But this guy is very poor. You can look at their dress, very simple. And he had money to buy 3 pair of shoes. 3 children had shoes, and the rest barefoot, because he didn't have money to go further. But I want to show this because marriage, according to Hollywood, is love to the end of the world. It's not true. I'm telling young people, never marry your girlfriend because you're lost. The moment you marry your girlfriend, you bring her home, you lost a girlfriend, you got a mother in house. But that's a joke. But a family has nothing to do with love, or it's about my world. I created my world, and I have responsible. I have to educate it from very old on. Education, I need to say that. Can we go? The last one.
So this is just a little sample of what's in the book. Can you imagine the content that it's... Tonight is much too short to go too much into detail.
This is the third generation Surinamese beauty. These photos are around 1819, 1900. Those are the Surinamese, not Chinese, Suriname beauty. They're dressed up as a rich family. I have a few of these photos, but a pity I can't find the name or the name of the family. That's it. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful few samples from the book. I think it's safe to say that these three people here have done an immense, great job. And also, I think it's safe to say that Mrs. Jeanette Woei is also the force behind this book. She is the main editor. She has patience, patience, and patience to do this. Patience.
You know what? I do want to thank two people in the audience, Mr. Ivan Elvani and Mr. 𝐒𝐚𝐠𝐲𝐿. Without these two people, this book shouldn't be here tonight because we had many computer failures and we were going ballistic. So Mr. Ivan Elvani said, I will take you out of your sorrow. We need to upgrade that computer. Your computer will not be crashed anymore. And also your external drive. So his technician, he sent them over, Yosvani, Woei, who saved the book because we were told we cannot retrieve anything from that external drive. And I was going, help! What should we do? Thank you. Great people, great friends. Thank you. And Rick came over from Holland just for a couple of days to witness this evening and to be here with us. And also we got friends from Holland. They came for the event and in particular for Paul's launching of his new book. Thank you so much.
To summarize, this book is about life's stories documented by Paul from Surinamese Chinese descendants. It is this group who has had an impact and a fundamental role in shaping the community as we know it today. I hereby would like to commence the book sale of Paul Woei's book, Sreffidentie in de kolonie Suriname, begon met 1 cent pirambi op azijn. May I also request when you are leaving, please have a taste of a little bit of that Sreffidentie Paul wrote about, which is those birambis. Enjoy the evening, and those who joined us in the live stream, thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Have a good evening. Please go and get yourself a copy before it's sold out. Thank you.
走。走。